Alaimo, CK, welcome back in, gentlemen. CK, you were asking a second ago, is this a 1-beer show, a 2-beer show, or a 3-beer show? We want you slurring by the end of this hour, so I have at it, dude.
Yeah, you'd only be the second guy on the show that's ever done that, so...
Oh, man. Well,
I was the guy.
Hopefully I can handle 3 beers. Hopefully I can handle 3 beers, but we'll see by the end of the show.
Wait, we're going to throw out trivia. I'm not going to spoil it, Josh. I won't say this.
Are we going to divulge this now? Or
I don't know. I don't want to say the episode, but if you're a regular listener, we want you to send us an email, bluecollar.bitcoin.podcast@gmail.com, or tag us on Twitter, or DM us, and tell us which show you think Josh got hammered in.
Like completely
We've done 98
hammered,
of them.
slurring words. It took me like 3 times the normal amount of time to edit the episode because it was so bad. I had to cut massively out of it. And like there were just diatribes I went on that made no sense that were completely cut out. So yeah, if you know what show that was.
Real. Like I realized about 20-30 minutes into the episode, like Dan, you got to put your big boy pants on and take over here because this could get sideways. If you know what it is, let us know. I'm not gonna embarrass you too much, Josh, but which one of our 98 episodes
I'm owning it. I'm not embarrassed
was he hammered in? How are you guys?
Yeah, send it.
Doing well. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure being here. Love your show. Listen to it every week.
Thanks, guys. We listen to you, both of you, a lot. Mm-hmm. We've been enjoying the cosmic angle, CK, going cosmic. We're going to put you on the spot right away. What's your favorite chat you've had getting cosmic so far?
Oh, man. I think I'm biased on this one just because I've been a huge Aaron Segal stan for a long time. But I think he was like the second or third guest. He wrote my favorite Bitcoin article, which is Bitcoin Information Theory. You can find that on Bitcoin Magazine. But
your favorite Bitcoin article?
Yeah, it's my favorite Bitcoin article.
Bold statement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, check this one out. I haven't heard of this one.
When I first read it, I literally DM'd the guy and I was like, yo, what, how did you think of this shit? So like he's a very cosmic individual, very well steeped in history and that kind of stuff. So that was a great conversation.
Yeah, we only have cosmic people on this show, CK. It's like it's one of the main tests you have to pass in our mind. Are you cosmic? Wow, I haven't heard of that article either, Josh. We're gonna
have to read that one, and we'll definitely link it. That not maybe the best title, but I'll take your word on that one.
BIT. It's a little bitty.
So what was the gentleman's name who wrote the article?
Aaron Segal.
Okay, noted. You're about to go on vacation too. You're about to get completely out of Dodge. How does that work with running the business? Is that even going to be possible for you to fully unplug, CK?
We're going to see. Honestly, though, like guys like Chris and other folks on the team that manage teams themselves, they're machines. Like they are operating. Like I can't tell you how many times I go onto our company Slack on a random Saturday at 4 p.m. So the evening, and people are actively on there talking about Bitcoin, talking about work, doing whatever. We have a really awesome culture here, and guys like Chris, that lead a cohort of people, they're a big part of that. So we have great middle management, and blessed because I can take a vacation, and I very much appreciate it. Haven't even hit that yet. I have a pretty stacked calendar right now, just trying to get through and make sure I don't drop any balls. But 79 days until the conference. I don't know when this is airing, but we're grinding to get to the Bitcoin 2023, and we just have an awesome team. So hats off to them.
Well, let's talk about the event. I mean, either of you guys have anything top of mind that you're like, holy shit, this is the thing that I really want to tell everybody about? Or what are some of the main speakers? What are some of the events? I know, I think I missed it. Was it either 2019 or 2020 where you guys had a dumpster of some hyperinflated money? I want to hear about something like that. What's going on at 2023 that's going to top the dumpster fire of fiat money?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was B21. I was not there, but I heard stories about it, so CK can refer to that. But the thing
True
that I'm
story.
really the thing that I'm excited for is Bitcoin games. So we're kind of like knocking off of the kind of like the Olympics, and it's in a competition for one whole Bitcoin. So I don't know what our company was thinking, giving away like.
Wait. What do we have to do? What exactly? You won't believe what I'll do to win one side of Bitcoin.
What dicks to win?
I can tell you.
Would you ever? This thing? Yeah.
There's not a lot I wouldn't do for that.
Yeah, wait. So, Chris, you kind of give the general concept, and I'll go through the games.
Yeah, so basically it's a bunch of Bitcoin meetups competing for one whole Bitcoin. Maybe this is a short-sighted and high time preference move here, giving away one whole Bitcoin. CK, he's famous for saying 37 sats is generational wealth. When you're giving away 100 million sats, it's a lot more generational wealth. That's a village or continent wealth there. So,
we're going to endow a meetup.
Pretty much. So CK, if you want to go over the games that we have planned for it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the way that it works is that, 47, 42, something along those lines, their meetups submitted a team of 4 to 12 people, and there are 6 different games: Bitcoin cornhole, setting up a seed signer, so like a seed signer race, a match of chess, a pizza eating contest, feats of strength, and then Family Feud. And the winner of the games gets a Bitcoin for their meetup and to be invested in their community.
Wow, that is going to be viciously competitive. That's going to get weird. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, where exactly is this going down? Like, I'm trying to picture. Is this outside maybe the venue where you guys usually put the concert and all of that?
Yeah, it's a combination of right outside the venue, in that grassy patch, at least for the cornhole and stuff. But I think that's kind of going to be the meeting hub for it. CK, you can speak to anything else with it.
No, there's going to be a decent amount inside too. So Miami Beach Convention Center is freaking massive. Last year, we kind of like spread the conference out across the entire space. This year, we're kind of bringing it in and really owning the spaces more. And we have like a nice spot for most of these competitions in the expo hall. So the expo hall is going to kind of like have a ton of these different activations on top of, having all the businesses in the space there. But one of them is like this Bitcoin game competition, which is kind of going on throughout the conference.
I think you should add an artistic component, just some constructive feedback here. I think you should add a component that's which team can create the best set of balls to affix on the bull outside the front of the conference center.
Yeah, I think
I totally forgot about that.
Wait, is the bowl going to be back this year?
I actually have absolutely no idea. It has not been announced yet. So we'll have to see for that one if the bowl.
It's just going to be a giant set of balls, like the bowl removed. Just a giant set of brass balls.
One of the guys that trolls us on Twitter, Firehouse Shitter, posted a meme of Josh and I's face as the testicles. I forget what he used as the cock, Josh, but yeah, I know our faces were the balls. I wasn't sure whether to be complimented or offended or yeah.
No, I think we should have been complimented.
Yeah. Here's my question with the conference. Before we kind of get back into the hype, what's like a logistic component to this of organizing a massive event on this scale? Because this event is enormous. You guys can kind of quantify for that in the landscape of financial conferences, but it's absolutely huge. I think this year you guys are estimating 15,000 guests, tons of speakers, stages, events, sponsors, companies. Give us a little window into what it's like to throw and run and plan an event like this.
So just to like not fully answer the question directly and kind of give some context, I've been a part of putting on these events since 2019 when we did Bitcoin 2019, and we've literally been learning on the fly because every single year has exploded in growth. So this year, going back to the same venue, kind of being prepared for the scale that the conference is going to be, it's really setting it up for us to have like the best executed, cleanest event yet. I'm really excited to kind of show off what we build. But ultimately, like, this is a 45-person team effort. We scale up to like 500 people when you kind of count in the people who build it. You know, there's like massive machinery moving huge amounts of equipment in and outside of the building. And, you know, there's security guards everywhere. Like, it really is quite an operation. Even just getting a line that gets people in the door, like, in an efficient manner is like no easy task. So Bitcoin 21, we got flamed for having a line on day one. And that was a learning experience because we've never had 12,000 people at an event before then. It had literally like 4 or 5x on us. So, you know, it's hard. It's pretty much, I would say, like, it takes at least 180 days, but, you know, you kind of have to reserve your venue spot, like, you know, 18 months in advance. So, you know, even like right now, I am planning where we're going to have Bitcoin 2024 and the dates for that. And I'm also like putting in work to like try to get dates and a location for Bitcoin 2025 just so we can get really ahead of it. So,
right.
You know, it's just a lot. And, you know, the Bitcoin conference at this point started off in 2019, you know, 1,900 people, 2,000 people. You know, now we're talking about one of the biggest energy, finance, consumer, electronic events, period, you know, in the entire world. So, it's definitely grown up a lot. And I think it's like a physical instantiation of Bitcoin too. You know, Bitcoin is just this real big thing that, you know, it's pretty much unignorable at this point. And, you know, it's pretty amazing to see the industry event, you know, get to this like kind of level.
Yeah, and kind of tacking off what CK was saying, I was only here for Bitcoin 2022, or that's at least when I started. And the size of the Miami Convention Center, Josh, I know you can talk to it. This place is massive. We live streamed the main stage, or the Nakamoto stage, and the mining stage, but we also had 3 other stages: the Genesis stage, Enterprise stage, and the open source stage. So while it was basically anyone that was virtual saw basically those 2 main stages. Obviously, we put up the clips later from the other 3 stages, but logistically, boots on the ground, when you are trying to get speakers and people to 5 different locations, if you're including the analyst desk, that's technically a 6th stage. There's an exhibit hall for artists and, you know, everything going on there. So it's just the logistics of speakers, sponsors, just people moving through the venue. It's massive. I was on a scooter, and it would take to get from one end of the building to the other like 8 to 9 minutes. If you were walking,
you literally need scooters.
Yeah, literally. It's like a good like 20-minute walk, and you're hustling. I was on a scooter. It took me like 8 minutes to get from one building to the other, and I'm like booking it past people.
We're going to need segues, by the way, guys. We'll be the mall cops of the conference. Just fucking roaming around on.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Crypto Cloaks has got in store for us. I don't know if you guys saw last night. They put a picture of a Magnum Sharpie marker up because last year their exhibit, they're in the, you know, for their business was literally a piece of cardboard that they wrote Crypto Cloaks on with a Magnum Sharpie. I think they're going to dazzle it up a little bit this year. I'm really excited to see what they got. And the other thing, if you're coming to this conference, get a hotel room now, or better yet, have gotten it already, because I last minute decided to go last year, and I think everything was like $800 a night. And I was like, well, fuck it, I'm not doing that. I stayed at a hostel, and that's an experience I wouldn't recommend. Just not at all. People are in there turning the lights on at midnight, being assholes, being drunk.
Stayed at a hostel. Don't do it. If anybody's wondering whether we're actually blue collar, there's your answer right there. Josh stayed at a fucking hostel. And I wasn't there because I had a baby, which was the most wonderful thing in my life, but also sucked. He robbed me of that experience.
You did.
And the FOMO was through the goddamn roof for me. So if you're on the fence, get those tickets, folks, because they will go up, and you will experience the same FOMO I had last year if you don't attend. We're going to take a quick break here to remind you folks to get your Bitcoin 2023 tickets. The Bitcoin conference hosted by Bitcoin Magazine is going down once again in Miami Beach, May 18th to the 20th, 2023. Josh and myself, Dan, will be there. And if you're dead serious about Bitcoin or interested in learning more, you should be there too. Join the two of us for the world's largest gathering of Bitcoiners as we celebrate yet another year of progress towards hyper-Bitcoinization. It's gonna be a signal-packed party with a smorgasbord of outstanding Bitcoin education and access, and you can get 10% off tickets with code BCB23. That's BCB23 for 10% off. Ticket prices will go up significantly and incrementally from now until the conference. So get on it, folks.
I think even better than the hotel is getting like an Airbnb with your meetup or a bunch of friends or people that you shoot the shit with online, getting an Airbnb, and makes it a little bit cheaper. The hotels in Miami are still a little expensive even there and about, but you can find a pretty good Airbnb.
Should we auction off the couch we have left at our Airbnb? What do you think? What do you think they can go for if we auction it off?
Starting at $15,000. In terms of speakers, we actually, after the conference last year, I watched a ton of the conference remote, which my wife wasn't super happy about. We literally had like a 4-day-old baby, and I was watching Bitcoin 2022 stages. But we actually went on Millennial Investors Podcast Network after, Josh and I, and with Clay Fink, we talked through a lot of the main panels and speakers at the conference, of which there were many. I was just diving back into my notes. The Sailor Kathy Wood chat, the Peter Thiel chat, the Samson Mao, Mallers, that billionaire panel, and then Jordan Peterson. So many kind of amazing angles and themes. What are you guys most excited about from the speaker lineup here in 2023?
Yeah, I could start with that. We're having a huge energy focus. One of the biggest announcements that we had this year was obviously Shell is a sponsor for this conference, but not just B23. It's a multi-year deal. So we're really looking forward to having them in the fold. Obviously, they're one of the biggest energy companies in the world, and definitely, I don't want to say punching above our weight, but we're excited to have such a big, well-known corporation coming into the fold. And, they kind of understand the importance of Bitcoin, and anything that they need from us at Bitcoin Magazine or BTC Inc. for learning more about this, crazy bright orange technology and future, we're happy to provide. And we're looking forward to how they integrate. Specifically, they're going into the mining angle, as you guys can imagine, dealing in oil and gas, using it for methane capture. They mainly, their focus is like the solvents division. So kind of like using a solvent to help with cooling, so specifically for Bitcoin miners and ASICs. It's really, really cool. And like I said, I think it gives us more brand reputation as well as more relevance globally, where like a company like Shell is, coming to a conference like this and speaking.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, I want to talk about the content, but a lot of people, they're like, a lot of like hardcore Bitcoiners, like, I like this small community event. I prefer going to my meetup, and like that is amazing. But the reality is that like as Bitcoin continues to grow, like Shell needs an outlet. Like these companies that are trying to get involved in this space, they need a place to actually like learn about the space and interact with the space. And like that's why we make a conference that is of that echelon, right? So like that is really like the impetus for it. And there are a ton of amazing Bitcoiners that are coming, and we want those Bitcoiners to meet newbies, right? So we make an event that attracts newbies, so that way they can go to a proper Bitcoin conference instead of going to a crypto conference or an NFT conference or whatever. Like we want them to come and meet Bitcoiners. We want them to see Bitcoin companies. We want them to see huge names in industry talking about Bitcoin. So that's kind of like what we do. Our agenda is coming out soon. 2 weeks TM, as the joke. It's actually going to be more like 4 or 5 weeks. But in terms of like the speaking lineup, one of my favorite builders in this space is Arthur Hayes. And I know he's not the purest Bitcoiner in terms of like all the subjects he talks about, but if you go and look at BitMEX, especially when it was like this like behemoth in the trading space, that business was pure BTC. And I actually wrote an article about this in Bitcoin Magazine back when I had time to write articles, but it's called the Sovereign Company Thesis. And the whole point of the thesis was that if a company does the right things, it can become sovereign enough that it can resist governments. And BitMEX was a shining example. They only ran on Bitcoin. They held their own funds. The U.S. government sanctioned them. When the U.S. government sanctions a country, like the funds stop. Like you're Russia, your money's gone, right? Guess what? The withdrawals kept flowing on BitMEX, right? Like that's the power of Bitcoin. Like that's what Bitcoin does. So I'm so stoked to have Arthur there in person now that he's gotten over all his baloney in terms of like legal issues. And yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have an incredible conversation. He's going to say some really insightful things about the space. I'm really excited for him.
CK, what you just said made me think of this. Like, one of the dudes I met in the hostel, great guy from Britain. He was there purely, I mean, he was there because he wanted to be at the conference, but this is a great networking event. Like, if you want to get into the industry, if you want to talk to companies, if you want to get your face out there to work in Bitcoin, this is the best place I can think of to go to network with people, meet the people you hear in the podcast you listen to, just meet people in the industry that can get you a job that maybe you've been seeking, and get in front of them and get your face out there. And this is a great opportunity for that. I can speak to that personally. Like, I spoke to face to face with a whole ton of people that I would have never met otherwise if it wasn't for that conference. And there is definitely something IRL that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and to your point, we want to support not just companies and people coming to the conference, but we also, promote a lot of the side events. I think the webpage is already up or going up shortly with a lot of our side events. So you can go to our website, check out many of the side events. So while you come to the conference, network with people there, network with companies, we also help promote a lot of the after hours things. After 6 o'clock, who you grabbing food with, or what event do you want to go to, or what speaker do you want to listen to after hours, or what bar do you want to even meet up with, even like other companies that throw events after hours. So definitely we really promote that. It's kind of the culmination or the mecca of Bitcoin, and we love just having Bitcoiners in real life meeting up and hanging out in real life as well.
Yeah. Comment and then a question for you, CK. So you kind of alluded to it a second ago. One thing I think to expect at a conference of this magnitude and size is there's going to be tremendous diversity of the people represented there. I mean, and you hinted at to garner the attention of and get the involvement of huge multinational corporations, as well as noobs, people that are brand new to Bitcoin. You're going to have a ton of people that haven't spent the 2,000 hours studying this and are hardcore way down the rabbit hole. You're going to have a lot of seekers or people that are interested, still skeptical, which I think is a wonderful thing. But that's just going to come with a conference this size. And I think that overall should be invited and celebrated and expected when you go to an event like this. Having said that, one question I have about this conference is there's obviously going to be some degree of crypto diversity, but is that changed some from the previous year? How much Bitcoin focus versus crypto in general? What's kind of the trend there? And I guess your high level thoughts on that and how to navigate that when you are doing a conference that's this big and necessitates this amount of diversity.
No, I think that's a great question. And the reality is that like when it comes to companies that have to or want to be a part of our event and people that want to get on stage, our rule is that this is a Bitcoin conference and we talk about Bitcoin. So you don't go to like a basketball conference and then talk about something else on stage. Like we stay focused. In terms of like the learning curve of learning how to put on a great event, part of that is kind of making mistakes on the programming side. One of the big mistakes that we've made over the years is not thinking through and managing content via the moderator. So the reality is that we get a wider range of people that need to be on stage, and they have a wide array of opinions. But in order to stay along our editorial focus, we need great moderators who can facilitate engaging, authentic conversation. So maybe so-and-so thinks that a multi-coin future is something that is reasonable. We need to be able to facilitate an interesting conversation with them, authentically, in a way that is both respectful and entertaining, and with counterpoints that align with a more Bitcoin only perspective. So ultimately, it's really about like being as thoughtful as possible when we're navigating kind of this big tent event. And one of the learnings was the way to do that is work with and recruit the best folks from the industry to be our partners as moderators. So that is a key distinction that we're making moving forward. And I personally believe it's going to be a massive improvement. And just to kind of give some insight into how big of an improvement it's going to be, before 2022, we never had a live stream that had like the commentary desk, which I think is like, it 10x's the live stream, right? It really makes it so much better, and it gives our editorial team the ability to kind of comment on what happens on stage. It is working with the moderators in the way that we're going to be working with them moving forward is that level of an upgrade on both the, you know, actual content perspective, but also when people view it virtually, you know, their impression of the event as well. Something also that we learned that is really key is there's actually two events that are happening. There's the in-person event, which is extremely Bitcoin only. And when you look around, like there are very, very little shitcoining that's happening within our control at the physical event. And then there is like the main stage only on industry day, what some person who might not be the most hardcore maxi says on stage. Right? So there's this experience that is only happening virtually that we also have to think through as thoughtfully as we did the in-person experience. So that those are kind of two big shifts that we're making in order to ensure that the quality is of the standard that our audience expects of us. And ultimately, like I told Lawrence Lapart this at Bitcoin Park, I think like a year ago, he was giving me some feedback and I was like, I get it. We're doing our best. And the reality is that we get one iteration a year to like learn these lessons.
Yeah.
And every single time we've, you know, 2 or 5x on the scale. So it's like, you know, I don't want to say give us a break, but at the same time, it's like we can only learn these lessons in stride. So like, you know, that was a lesson that we learned in stride, and we are committed to creating the best experience possible.
Yeah. You know, Dan and I we talked to Troy Cross a couple of weeks ago, and we really dove into Christianity quite a bit, and the parallels to Bitcoiners wanting to only talk about Bitcoin, or like putting the blinders on as far as everything else is concerned, have a lot of parallel to Christianity, whereas like nothing else. I mean, when you're in that sector, you're in that, you know, ocean, you don't want to hear about anything else. But there is something to be said for having the ability to listen to other ideas without having to necessarily let them just bring down the entire house on your ideology. You can still be exposed to them in a certain way. And I'm not saying you should do this. What I'm saying is it's kind of interesting when people just cannot be exposed to other alternate or alien ideas. Like, you should be able to allow yourself to have an open enough mind to not only understand what other people are trying to tell you, maybe it doesn't agree with your ideology, but you should be able to at least work your way logically through it. And if your ideology still succeeds in the end, then maybe that was the right one for you. But I don't know, it's kind of telling when people completely and absolutely will not and cannot be exposed to something else. Otherwise, their entire worldview collapses on themselves. Like, it's, I think it's healthy in a way for people to be exposed to other ideas without, you know, throwing a tantrum. Dan and myself, Josh, talk a lot on this show about running a Bitcoin node. If you are a serious Bitcoiner and you want to verify, not trust, you will take this step at some point. For our node setups, we run software and hardware from Start9 Labs. This setup enables us to run a reliable and secure Bitcoin node, but then, if we so choose, experiment and graduate way beyond that towards many different areas of sovereign computing. You can download Embassy OS for free and install it on your own hardware, or you can buy one of Start9's plug-and-play devices. We highly recommend these devices. Start9 builds reliable and extremely easy-to-use products backed up with incredible customer support. Run a Bitcoin node, run a Lightning node, run a Nostr relay. Take control of your photos, messages, passwords, pictures, and data, all on one device. Embassy OS operating system is the distribution platform open source software has been waiting for. Visit start9.com. We only recommend and endorse companies that we believe in, and Swan Bitcoin is a company we believe in. I have been personally using Swan to DCA into Bitcoin since May of 2020, when Bitcoin was the wee price of $9,500. Swan's interface and on-ramp is incredibly simple and user-friendly. With Swan, you can dollar cost average daily, weekly, or monthly, or conduct a smash instant buy whenever you want. Withdrawals to cold storage are completely free and can be totally automated, truly set and forget. Swan wants you to hold your Bitcoin keys, and support is one click or phone call away if you need help during this process. Buying Bitcoin is just the tip of the iceberg. Swan also has a Bitcoin IRA product, business and nonprofit offerings, resources for financial advisors, private services for high net worth clients, and phenomenal educational materials. Visit swan.com for more information. And at swan.com/fire, you can learn about and receive Swan Premium for 1 year.
Amen. Amen. I want to respond to that thought, and then I'll hand it to you, Alaimo. There is a fine line here between giving a platform to scammers and also, on the flip side of that, creating arenas where ideas can be duked out and sharpened. And I cannot resonate more with your comments on Christianity, Josh. And they align very squarely with my upbringing in a conservative evangelical environment, me in undergrad studying Bible theology. They align with my perspective significantly, and that's that healthy religious perspectives and Christian perspectives are those that they still may have tremendous conviction. They still may be totally sold out and adherent to and excited about their faith. But if you ever get to a point in religion, in Bitcoin, in politics, pick the arena, where you are unwilling to engage in conversation with other thoughtful perspectives, that is a massive, massive warning sign that should be avoided, and we should reject that in Bitcoin. We should invite healthy and constructive debate with those of differing opinions. And to distill this to last year's or I think it was last year, maybe it was 2021. Which was the year when Elise Colleen had this response? I forget to who it was, but it was 21. It was in a 21.
SBF. Yeah, that's our favorite.
Yeah, so she the point I'm making here is that one of my favorite parts of the last 2 years of this conference is her responding to a different perspective, right? And if that different perspective hadn't been introduced, we wouldn't have gotten that gold nugget. And that's, iterated, I'm sure, many times at these conferences. So there's that balance there. But at the end of the day, if we're just trying to create this total cacophony, this complete echo chamber where only certain ideas are allowed in, that's just as concerning to me as giving the platform to outright scammers. We have to strike some middle ground. I'll get off my high horse. Alaimo, what were you going to say a second ago?
No, Dan, I think that's a great point. And I think it makes for some of the most entertaining content. If we all are in agreement, we all agree, you should self-custody your Bitcoin in a multi-sig, distribute it across the continent, do all the right things by Bitcoin, but there's no controversy in it. That makes for a pretty boring conference, especially for people that aren't on that same wavelength. Yeah. With the analyst desk, some of my favorite things were like someone was going on a rant on the main stage, and then Jimmy Song had probably the best rip, but Greg Foss, both him and Jimmy Song were like, "What the hell is that? That's stupid. That's ridiculous," and him tearing apart. So I know many people on the stream were like, "Thank God for Jimmy. Thank you for Greg for pointing out the idiosyncrasies of their argument or just the idiocy in general." So I think it's good to bring other ideas in and the controversy. Remember from Bitcoin 2021, Caitlin Long and SBF. SBF was talking about leverage being so great, and Caitlin Long's like, if you want to blow yourself up, you can. And, history writes itself really well.
That aged pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, 18 months later, it's like, learn your Mises and Hayek, and apparently SBF did not learn from them. So, lessons, the market teaches everyone at the end of the day.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people got taught that lesson without having to be the asshole taking the leverage themselves, which really sucks. And Dan and I know at least one person personally that got completely fucked in that situation. Yeah, it's a really sad thing, man.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think this is the best description of third-party risk that anyone's learned. Maybe aside from Enron, if you were involved in that, and I feel really bad for the employees of that. And then 2008, we were talking about the banking sector. Many people were not, they didn't have CDSs, and then their counterparty risk was AIG. But it's unfortunate that people personally had to learn this on a personal level. I think the bailouts in 2008 kind of show we just kind of papered over this, and people didn't have to learn the hard way. I guess that's maybe one of the benefits of crypto. I hate to use that term, but Bitcoin and crypto, if you were not self-custodying it yourself, you learn that the hard way. And then obviously with crypto, I see largely, you could self-custody it, but if they change the rules on you, that is another way that you can get rug pulled. So that's kind of why we see Bitcoin and not crypto. And that's why you need to self-custody and not use third parties or limit your exposure to third parties. I'll just get off my high horse there.
Yeah, no, I love it. The other thing I was going to say is you just make observations when you've been in this space a certain amount of time. We haven't been in forever, but we've been in since 2017. And from the people we know and interact with, unfortunately, in our view, the vast majority shitcoin before they kind of see the light. We did back in 2017, and it's been a learning progression. And I think a lot of people take that learning progression for granted. And that's back to, just to reiterate, like, let ideas duke themselves out. So if you've got people that see or kind of hold dear this multi-coin future idea, let that duke itself out on stage with good moderation with somebody that's got a different perspective, and let's see what that does and how that marinates. And I think that does help people learn, because yes, it's becoming more common to lead the horse straight to water, but it's not the norm. Most people kind of go through this journey and progression, and they end up hopefully at what, in our view, which is just our perspective, is the best destination, because that destination provides the most sustenance and holds the most logic and whatever. Yeah,
it's a great filter, man.
For sure. Here, I had one other curiosity with just logistics, CK. What percentage of this company is this conference as the captain of this ship? Like, what percentage of your employees and effort and time and energy goes into this one event?
I mean, a lot. I think Chris can kind of talk about it, but it really is a team effort. We are a startup media company. We're doing a ton of stuff, making the print magazine, doing daily online content in all of its forms, and then putting on this massive event. I would say at this point, we're like 40% doing Bitcoin magazine and 60% putting on the Bitcoin conference. But it really is a massive team effort, and there's a lot of crossover. Bitcoin magazine is supporting the conference and helping make sure the Bitcoin magazine audience knows that this is the ultimate place to meet other Bitcoiners, to network into the space. As David Bailey likes to put it, it's the pilgrimage, right? So, Bitcoin magazine is kind of like this cultural publication and a cultural figure in the space. And the Bitcoin conference is the annual pilgrimage for us to all get together. Everyone has their local event, and, maybe everyone does kind of like a smaller get together and on an annual basis. And then everyone comes together in Miami for the Bitcoin conference.
Yeah, I think that hits it nail on the head. I'd say it's like 50-50 split between the mag and the conference team. But in terms of like when we ramp up as we get closer, obviously it's like kind of 100% buy-in from the Bitcoin magazine team with supporting it, especially the day of the event, everyone from the magazine team is working the event. So it's kind of ramps up, but yeah, it's a good divide, and we're here to support each other.
The Bitcoin magazine e-commerce team, the ones that run our store and make sure we have like all these awesome hats and cool products, they're working the physical in-person store at the event. The Bitcoin magazine news team, they're reporting on the event. So it really is like all hands on deck when we actually get to the conference.
As we transition away from talking about the conference here, do you gentlemen have any Bitcoin developments that you're primarily excited about at the moment? Anything ruminating under the surface that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I can start. I guess two of the ones that I'm really excited for, I mean, outside of Nostr, I think Nostr is a very, very cool
we'll talk
protocol. But two of the ones that stand out to me is OpVault. So that's by James O'Byrne. And then also AnchorWatch, which is Rob Hamilton's company. So I'll speak to OpVault first. So OpVault is a technical proposal. It would require a soft fork in order for it to get implemented. Right now, James was trying to do it using speedy trial, which is basically like giving it in terms of to the miners. And there's a little bit of blowback because if you remember last summer, some people were talking about with CTV, they don't want to rush or force changes into Bitcoin. Obviously, we saw with Taproot, with Ordinals and Inscriptions, people can put JPEGs on the blockchain, or as people joke, dick butts on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Dick butts.
Yeah. So,
what do you think Firehouse Shooter's going to do with that? I don't know.
So, putting those on the blockchain, which was not a consequence that many people thought, but even though Taproot got implemented, it was one of the consequences of it. Basically, what OpVault can do is it allows companies, or allows to de-risk when you're cold storaging your Bitcoin. What do I mean by this? You're basically using Taproot in order to say that, let's just say I have a multi-sig. We'll do a general multi-sig, 2 of 3 multi-sig, 3 different devices, and I separate them geographically. Well, in this case, let's just say 2 of those get compromised and I don't realize. And all of a sudden I'm checking my Bitcoin, and all of a sudden some of it moves out of my cold storage. And I'm like, oh crap, like in a normal case, my Bitcoin would be gone. They use 2 of the 3 keys and they're gone. Op allows this thing where there's a way to anti-rug yourself. So you're basically putting it into a vault, and you can set the parameters of, let's just say 1,000 blocks, or let's just say 2,000 blocks. You set a block limit, and then you put a new address that in the event that this happens, you have a master key that you can sweep to where it gets swept to. So let's just say someone uses your 2 of 3 and they send it out. Within that 1,000 block window, you can use your master key. You'd obviously have to hide this separate from your 2 of 3 multisig, but you can use this master key to sweep to a new address that you have control of that would prevent you from like, oh crap, someone compromised my keys. I sweep to the new address, and then I can set up a new vault from there. I can leave it in the one of one, single sig. You can sweep it into a new multi-sig. So there's many different ways that you can do it, and it prevents people from getting rugged when they get compromised. Obviously, there's trade-offs to this. The master key is very, very valuable, so you're putting a lot more importance, but you can't just move out of the 2 of 3 multi-sig just with the master key. Like, it basically would need to move out, and then you could use that key as a way to reverse that transaction.
Wow.
Not reverse, but yeah, it's kind of a way that would help custody for custodians or large institutions, kind of a way of anti-rugging it, basically, which is very, very interesting, the implementations. Obviously, you have to opt into this. It's an opt code that you have to send, and it would be in the mini script of it all. The next one is for AnchorWatch, which is Rob Hamilton's company. It's using miniscript. So you can do hierarchy of keys. So the same 2 of 3 multisig. Let's just say, Dan and Josh, I'm going to give each one of you guys a key, and I have one key myself. That'd be kind of risky because you guys run the Blue Collar Bitcoin podcast. I have nothing against firefighters and nothing against you guys. But if you want to collude and take Chris Alaimo's family wealth, you two can use 2 of the 3 keys, collude together, and pull my wealth out. Well, in using the hierarchy of keys, my key would be considered a primary key. So you can only move with my key plus one of your keys. Or so even if you have both of your keys, that doesn't work. It would need my key plus one of yours. Or in the event that you could lose one of your keys, that master key over time could it becomes 2 of 2 instead of just a 2 of 3. So over time, after 10 years, it degrades. You can use your 2 keys after 2 years. But basically, you're building in parameters that you can use to move your Bitcoin after a certain time. It's kind of similar to OpVault, but it's different. Rob Hamilton also has an insurance piece to it. So he's trying to build an insurance business and build insurance products on top of Bitcoin. Right now, it's just kind of like fiat-based is the way that they insure it. But in the future, he does have terms to try and get it on more of a Bitcoin-only standard. But yeah, they're helping self-custody and, insure your Bitcoin for the long term. So those are kind of 2 proposals or 2 things that I'm really, really looking forward to that are going on in the Bitcoin space that are, some of them are well-known or less well-known.
Yeah, both of those sound really, really interesting. The first one you were talking about where there's a master key that could override everything. So the only seeming weakness in that is that you do have that one master key. So it is effectively still multi-sig, so you could still sign with multiple signatures, but if you lose or those are compromised, you still have one, if I'm correct, that master key is going to move everything no matter what. Is that
accurate? It only comes into play once the vault's been empty. Correct?
So it comes into play. You can set a parameter. So if it's below 1 Bitcoin coming out of there, that's fine. The master key can't come into play. But if someone's sweeping all of it or, something like that, you have time to reverse it, basically.
Wow. And, I'm about to make probably a stupid sounding generic Bitcoin comment. So apologies in advance. But it just every time I'm learning about this new shit every single week. It's not even every single month. Every single week, there's a new piece of tech that Josh and I are like, holy crap, that's cool.
So hard to keep up, man.
And it's just a testament. We'll stay on this topic here if we have more.
There's no innovation in Bitcoin, okay, guys?
None.
It's Boomer Coin, Tortoise token. It's not moving at all.
Exactly. I mean,
yep.
We're going to talk about Nostr before this conversation is over, but the theme of, and I mentioned this piece a lot on this show, but Andreas Antonopoulos' piece from years ago, why dumb networks are better. And the idea that simplicity at the center allows for complexity at the edge. I mean, the amount of opportunity and potential that exists on a protocol that's as simple as Bitcoin. And we're just, the examples you just gave are just, custody, financial infrastructure tech. But this thing is going to become as usable as we need it to be, as grandmother proof as you want it to be. It's going to become that in the future. And you just watch that being built out in front of our eyes. And it's not only amazing developments and teams building, but also a testament to what they're building on. and the profundity and the impact and the significance of a simple, scalable, open source, workable, useful protocol. It's just magnificent to watch.
Yeah, and that parlays really well into Nostr itself, which is, again, it's kind of using this decentralized technology that Bitcoin has brought to the forefront, and it's doing it now with social media and without a token, which is probably the most significant thing about all of this. Like in 2017, somebody would have invented Nostr and put a token on it, but now, like, I think we've finally gotten past this hurdle where people are trying to just scam everybody to the nth degree. Obviously, the developers of Nostr understand that and aren't scumbags. But the fact that this thing is basically making a Twitter competitor that, as far as I can see, playing with it myself, and Dan, I think you agree, it's pretty damn good. I mean, other than the fact that media can't really be stored on it that well because you're decentralizing this, and therefore you have to really keep to a very minimum of how much media goes on this thing. It can be done in a third-party manner at this point. But other than that, the text, the speech, the important stuff, getting the point across that you want to do in an uncensored way is, I would argue, the most important thing about social media. I mean, we all love watching, girls flash their ass on Instagram, but we all want to be able to have our speech uncensored. And that is essentially what this is. This is decentralized speech that can't be censored by anybody, and it is in the wild right now. And people are building on it, and it's a dumb protocol, just like Bitcoin. And at the edges, it's going to get way better.
It was built by Bitcoiners too, which I think it bodes well for the future that Bitcoiners are the ones who are making these moves.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Bitcoin is completely incorporated into it because it was built by Bitcoiners. So one thing I know we want to talk about and kind of explore, which is zapping. This is kind of, at least and as far as I'm concerned, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, it seems like this has become a huge thing. And my understanding of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's effectively just Lightning transactions, but integrated in the protocol itself. So you can zap people back and forth without necessarily having to create an invoice. Either of you guys want to build on that? I mean, I haven't had a lot of time to really dig into this yet, but tell us what zapping is.
Yeah, I'll jump into it. I mean, zapping for me has made me more than ever want to really get kind of down and dirty with Lightning. And honestly, I personally feel like Bitcoin is exponential in that way. So we haven't talked about Ordinals Inscriptions yet. I'm sure I have an unpopular opinion from some of the audience here about them.
On the
Nostr side, I'm so effing bullish. It is insane. And the reality is look at all of these social media networks. They're trying to figure out how to turn into money businesses. They're trying to make their own token. They're trying to add payment processors in. Damus, which is one client on Nostr that just got approved to the App Store a month ago, they already have payment, right? They already have this magic of internet money. And it's going to show, when you adopt Bitcoin, you're going to be able to outpace your competitors in really legitimate and substantial ways. And I think that that's showing a little bit when it comes to Nostr. And like you said, Dan, the beauty of small protocols are simple protocols. But once you start compounding these protocols, that is fire. That is magic. That's the future. And, I personally am bullish on Nostr. I think that if Twitter is going to survive through this decade, it's going to have to be built on Nostr. You can quote me here. So when they do the real Twitter 2.0, it's either built on Nostr or it's dead on arrival, honestly. So right now, Twitter's broken to shit, has the network effects that it's bleeding out, and I'm very interested to see if Elon is going to adopt open source technology or keep going proprietary. And I think that's going to be the story of social media for this decade.
Man, you just went cosmic on us, man. I knew it was coming, and there it was. It hit hard. Beer number 2 brought the cosmic out of you. Here's what I want to say in follow-up to that. At the end of the day, Bitcoin works. We've been talking in the last couple months about this thing is fucking useful, and it's useful as hell. And its usefulness is going to be exponential, right? So the days of what does this thing do? Those are over. but they're still in public discourse, but they're going to be completely over soon. And this is we're just going to draw one application here. The first, after we enabled Zaps, I sent like a funny meme and we made $10 off of it worth of Bitcoin, right? Just the first fucking time we did it, right? We're a tiny fish. My point is, as content creators, as authors, as social media influencers, whoever they are, start to realize that there's this thing over here with this budding social media economy that just works and scales and whatever, that's going to be very appealing and extremely hard to resist. That's the current you're speaking to, CK. That's going to be extremely hard to reverse. And that is back to, as you hinted at, the beauty of protocols that work, that can integrate, right? You've got on one side a workable value transfer protocol. On the other side, you've got a notes and messaging protocol. And here they connect without having to fabricate one or the other. And it is remarkable the speed, and Josh, you said this, of just how quickly this has started to scale just within the Bitcoin community, and then just how workable it is. I'm using it on Android. I've used a couple different clients, and they work marvelously well. And that's what really has my jaw on the floor of like, wow, this looks, feels, and operates like social media, and it's decentralized. And
I'm just thinking to myself,
Lightning.
I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Elon Musk and I'm looking at what's going on right now, and I just spent $40 billion on Twitter, I don't know, man. Like, allowing that to bleed into Nostr, allowing that to happen basically means that you just took $40 billion and threw it in a garbage can and lit it on fire. Because I'm trying to picture how he can still manage to make money out of it and make it a profitable business. I don't think he can, is the point. So
they're firing people left and right, man.
I know. What I'm saying though is there's no way he's going to open it up to like be a Nostr client. There's no way, because it's either A, you allow it to bleed itself to death and maybe you can pull your $40 billion out of it, or B, you open up the Nostr and you guarantee you bleed your $40 billion out of it. I don't really see a C option there. I mean, correct me if you think you have another option for there. I don't really see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Elon even tweeted recently, he was like, I'm running the world's largest nonprofit in the world, which I thought was really, really funny.
I didn't see that tweet.
No, yeah, he tweeted out. I was like, all right, at least he's making fun of himself. I give him props. I wouldn't bet against Elon, but he definitely is going up against a lot. I think with the Nostr of it all is it's free and open source protocol. We've talked about that. And then just the ease, you can zap, fractions of a penny to someone, and just the ease of use of it is just so mind-boggling. I forget where I was going to go with this, but I just don't think they have a money protocol built into it, and they're going up against a lot. And like to your point, Josh, it's going to be very hard for them to make them profitable. It's kind of the race against open source, basically.
Yeah. Also, like the Jack Dorsey story is really compelling, really, really compelling on the Nostr front. I mean, you're looking at the guy who created Twitter and is very publicly attesting to the fact that he believes it's broken. And he's the god of Twitter. He's the one that thought it up and invented it and put it into play. And he's saying it's a broken model, and he's obsessed with Nostr. If that's not kind of a little bit of a narrative nail in the coffin, I don't know what is. Also,
mainstream media is not reporting on it, though. They'd rather just dunk on Elon and get mad at him for not censoring.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say too. Elon basically shot himself in the foot. Remember when a couple weeks ago he's like, "Hey, we're going to start not boosting or censoring people that tweet about other platforms." And it was interesting that he listed like Facebook, Instagram, and then he listed Nostr. He didn't include TikTok, which I thought was very, very interesting, because I think TikTok's eating a lot more clients' lunch. But like he mentioned Nostr, and basically it's the Streisand effect of like, like what's this platform?
It blew up after that.
Yeah, there was less than 10,000 users, and Will's like, yo, relays are getting like burnt out like no tomorrow, because when Elon was like, yo, we're banning Nostr, everyone's like, what the hell is this protocol? It must be something that Elon's tweeting about. So
apparently that was bigger than sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, Josh. Apparently that was bigger than Jack like publicly endorsing it and jumping on. It was a Streisand effect from the Twitter ban or inclusion on the Twitter ban list that really like got the catalyst going.
Don't get me wrong. Like I'm an Elon fan. Like as far as I'm concerned, like he's been a force for good for the most part in the world. And just the fact that he released all those Twitter files and all the other shit that he did, like he clearly has, I think it's pretty clear that he does want free speech to proliferate, but I just don't think it was a sound business decision to do what he did with Twitter. Like I think he fucked up in a major way.
He's one of the most exciting companies and projects that Josh and myself, Dan, have come across in the last few years is Crowd Health. If you're already familiar with Crowd Health and have interest in checking it out, then use code BLUE for a significant 3-month trial discount. Healthcare is an incredibly confusing, stressful, and cumbersome space to navigate. Crowd Health provides a remarkable and workable alternative to traditional healthcare setups for a fraction of typical premiums. It's essentially the decentralization of healthcare. You can leverage the power of Bitcoin alongside healthcare crowdfunding to put decisions about your health back in your hands. Each member gets access to great healthcare services as well as their own dedicated care advocate that will negotiate your bills and find members the best doctors and hospitals. Go to joincrowdhealth.com to learn more. And if you're interested in the Bitcoin-specific crowdfund, go to joincrowdhealth.com/Bitcoin. BCB listeners can enjoy healthcare freedom with code BLUE to get your first 3 months for a substantial discount at $99 a month. That is code BLUE. Crowd Health is not health insurance, which we feel is a wonderful thing. If you have healthcare needs or concerns, seriously, give Crowd Health a look. The Blue Collar Bitcoin podcast is brought to you by arguably the most legendary company in Bitcoin, CoinKite. They are the producers of the renowned Cold Card, the world's most trusted and secure Bitcoin signing device, built with a plethora of features fit for Bitcoin beginners all the way up to the most advanced of users. This device is a one-stop shop for your Bitcoin custody needs, and something the two of us have trusted for years. CoinKite also manufactures the Block Lock, a gorgeous e-ink digital display art piece sitting in the background of what seems to be every serious Bitcoiner on the planet. Block Lock can be programmed to scroll through key Bitcoin metrics including price, hash rate, next halving date, and much more. Boy, oh boy, will this thing look good in your living room or office. They are also the makers of many other security and fun products for all users, no matter their technical aptitude. Support our show and get a delicious discount on CoinKite products by following our affiliate link on the screen and in the notes, and using code BCB for 5% off the Cold Card. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. CK, you just messaged on the message here. It's the innovator's dilemma. It's like he's got to keep fish in the tank, right, to have seafood for dinner, but the tank's bleeding out and the fish want into freer open waters. And that's a trick bag, especially when you've sunk that much capital. The other thing I wanted to say, you mentioned relays a second ago, Alaimo. The relay component to this, and we've spun this up with our Start9 Embassy OS nodes. And doing that is like, holy shit, it's an example of this compounding decentralized open source protocol effect, right? You're running a Bitcoin node already. Well, guess what? With the right software, that can now be a Nostr relay with no work, right? And there's the compounding decentralization effect on Nostr because of Bitcoin.
Right.
And that's powerful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, giving a shout out to your sponsor, Start9. I mean, I think Matt Hill's episode, the episode you guys had with him was great. And I know he's a sponsor of your podcast, but like he's basically talking about, what was the quote from earlier? The simpler, the better and the better developments that you can have. But basically he's talking about everyone running their own server. And I think a lot of the original cypherpunks and even a lot of the original cryptographers or IT guys thought that the internet was going to be very peer-to-peer. And then we kind of went into a centralization model because convenience it's much more convenient and user-friendly. People don't want to learn these things. But I think we've finally gotten to the point, if 2020 wasn't, the start of this, that you realize at the edge of convenience, there are a lot of trade-offs that people start to realize in all of these different things.
It's kind of like politics, it swings one way very, very far. And then the pendulum inevitably has to swing the other way because it's just gotten insane. And then it'll inevitably go too far that way. The cypherpunks at the origination of all of this were, running their own servers. They were the people that actually had the understanding to do that. Most normal dweebs like us don't know how to do that kind of stuff. Dan and I'm talking about. But they've made it. Start9 has made it so easy. Like you almost can't do it. You can't not do it. If you have the ability, if you have the hardware, you might as well do it. I mean, it's all just handed to you right now. You don't have to know how to do shit. I remember like 4 years ago, I was trying to run a Bitcoin node, and it took a whole bunch of command line shit that I was like copy and paste. And all it takes is one character to be wrong and the whole thing is fucked. Now you don't even have to do that. It's just push a button, hit like download and start. It's easy as that. Like there's no real excuse not to run your own server at this point.
Yeah, and even I know many Bitcoiners say not your node, not your privacy. And I think running your own node, it kind of opens up like the server model, like exactly like Matt was saying. Like I do think exactly, and I've said as well that like running your own node is basically going to be like running your own modem and router. Everyone does it. I don't know how they freaking work, but I plug them into the wall, I plug them into the cables in, and I just power it on, and we're good to go. I mean, I think that's the level of ease of use people are getting to, and you're going to have to. It's going to be important for your family's wealth, for your privacy, for just peer-to-peer connections, and like I said, relay. It's endless, the things that you can do. Hosting your own passwords, password manager, whatever it may be.
I want to say one more thing about just the server thing, because I think it's really important. This is where, like, mission matters, and you have to talk to people that are below you. Like speaking to Hill and Start 9, this guy's an intimidatingly smart individual, but his mission is to make this shit accessible to fucking firefighters, right? And for this shit to work, that has to be the case. You can be on nerd chats all day long saying how cool stuff is. If it is not relatable and practical and implementable for the average pleb, it is not going to take over the world. And that's where I totally agree, CK, with what you typed a second ago. Bitcoin is the catalyst for the personal server revolution. Like it is. As people start seeing, okay, it's this easy to start a Bitcoin node, and now I can start a Nostr relay, and I can take control of my passwords and my messaging and all this stuff. Like Bitcoin is the Trojan horse for freedom in the digital age in a lot of ways. It's the inroad for people to fire up these computers that can do all these things, but these computers need to be able to be fired up by average folk.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like sending one of your friends a dick pic on burn after reading.
Totally.
There's nothing that hits like that. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
They just need to build in zaps. They got to build in zaps so that way it's truly incentivized.
I want to make sure that we're on the level here. I'm not talking about actually my dick pic. I went and found another one. So
of course.
That's where we're at. Yeah.
Josh and I are happily married to women. No judgment for those that are attracted to men, but Josh and I are happily married to women. I know there's some question marks on that, Josh. We joke on this show. We literally are. I think our wives are starting to wonder we spend so much time with each other. I think
they're starting to wonder about that Airbnb we're going to get to go to Bitcoin 2023. At least we have a third wheel coming with us to make sure that we it's not the case,
Yeah, we're bringing a buddy with us, Ryan from work. Shout out to Ryan, cool dude, hardcore Bitcoiner. He's just going to kind of lurk in the background. He's going to be our security guard.
Let's hang out
for the conference.
He's going to make sure we don't get too drunk. He's going to keep us on level.
You guys are going to be dragging him back to the Airbnb.
Josh, go ahead before I interrupted you.
Oh, no. I know CK wanted to talk about Ordinals or his perspective on them, and I'm interested because it's another one of those things that's popped up recently that if I'm honest, like I'm not real up on it. It's just so much shit to keep up on. Like, give us a lowdown real quick on Ordinals. Tell us what you think of them, and about putting our dick pics on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm on record saying that 2023 has been the most impactful year in Bitcoin history, period. And I think it's because the combination of Nostr and inscriptions. And I don't actually give a shit about NFTs whatsoever. The idea that there is this new element to Bitcoin's base chain economic incentives that are getting miners this excited, and that gives people this amount of flexibility in what they can do with Bitcoin, and is attracting this much outside talent and interest into Bitcoin, is extremely, extremely bullish. I can think of like 50 different ways in which content producers can now leverage Bitcoin to now put their content into permanency, period. And no one can do anything about it if they're willing to pay the economic cost for that. And maybe that's one sat for byte right now. But guess what? Sats are getting more valuable into the future too. So even if it stays at 1 sat per byte, like that hurdle is increasing. And that's the whole point of Bitcoin, is it's creating economic incentives to do things. So I'm extremely bullish, and I kind of want to poke at some Bitcoiners, because sometimes Bitcoiners don't know something bullish when it smacks them right in the face. We need to be open-minded here. We are in the monetary motherfucking dark ages. You are an idiot. I'm an idiot. We need to be humble to the fact that we don't know how Bitcoin's going to work. This revolution's just starting. So stick your opinions into your heart, figure out how to grapple with the reality of consensus, know that Bitcoin doesn't give a shit about what you think, and that it's going to keep marching on. So you can either figure out how to do things aligned with Bitcoin's consensus and do things that are open to what is actually happening on the market, or you can get mad. And personally for me, like, I actually believe that everything is good for Bitcoin. So I don't actually care that people are putting something on the Bitcoin blockchain right now, because that's what the incentives allow for it. And beyond that, I can see far enough into the future where Bitcoin's actually adopted as money, and we can do the math, and it's going to be just fine. Like, we already know that the economic density of a transaction matters if this thing is money. So why are we getting mad? Like, why are you getting butthurt? Like, this is just part of the ride. So I know that, these are some tough words, but pack it up. It's going to be okay. And honestly, I really do think the people who actually love Bitcoin more than they hate NFTs, they're going to realize that this is a massive, massive change into Bitcoin's economic structure, the ability of what Bitcoin can do. And we are living in the world of censorship. So don't fucking DM me and say, check out BitTorrent, because that's not Bitcoin. That's not as permanent as Bitcoin. So I'm thrilled and excited for this change. I think Bitcoiners should be thrilled and excited for this change. I think Bitcoiners should be thrilled and excited for things that happen to Bitcoin in a market basis that are within its consensus rules. And I think that Bitcoiners should be open to the idea that a new paradigm's been changed and opened within Bitcoin. So just like Nostr is a massive step forward, so are inscriptions. So are the ability to make permanent large amounts of data on Bitcoin. And it's really, really interesting to how this changes the economics on a macro scale. So I'm going to get off my my soapbox, but I really do. Sometimes I'm pissed off at Bitcoiners. I'm like, what do you love more? Do you love Bitcoin or do you hate NFTs more? Because I love Bitcoin more. Okay? I don't actually, like, people are stupid. Yeah, duh. People are fiat minded. Yeah, duh. They're going to do some dumbass shit before they figure out what this technology can actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
CK, I thought you were going to tell them to take it and not shove it in their hearts, shove it somewhere else.
Yeah,
but,
I thought you were going there too, honestly. I was kind of waiting for it, lying in wait on it. But yeah, if you want to, throw your dick pic on Bitcoin and pay for it, like, that's fine. The miners would love to collect your sats so that so that can stay infamous on the internet forever.
Let the ordinal NFT cock smack you across the cheek, Josh. Is basically
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Were you going to say something, Alaimo?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I do think that this is bullish for Bitcoin. I mean, we're talking about freedom money here. People can do whatever they want with their money. If they want to inscribe, their dick butts, whatever it may be, on the Bitcoin blockchain, they can. They got to pay the fees for that. I know some people were kind of mad that there is a discount for putting it in the witness data versus main chain. It's like, a 75% discount for doing so. But this does not scale. I mean, many people that I was listening to, someone did a 4 megger, and, normally transaction fees, when you look at them, are anywhere from $2,000 or a few $100s when it's empty, all the way up to about $4,000. The 4 megger, in terms of fees, was about $18,000, almost a full Bitcoin to inscribe, the whole frickin' block. So yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, you're going to run out of Bitcoin way faster than and
the network's
anything.
glad to take it. They're glad to take it from you, whatever you want. I mean, however much you want to spend to put your, angry ape or No, Bored Ape. I'm sorry. Like, it's been so long already. What are those things worth now? Like 3 cents or 3 sats?
Yeah,
seriously.
No. And I mean, to that point too, like, I mean, it's just good for the network. It's good for, I know, the security budget. And I think Casey's brilliant with what he did. He's a hardcore Bitcoiner, as many people know. I mean, he's done commits to Bitcoin Core and such. But Casey was even brilliant. He was orange pilling the crypto people. They, in order to run Ordinals, or at least the Ordinals inscription software that he has, you have to run a full node. So he, this year, caused more people to run Bitcoin nodes than probably anything in history. Matt Odell can punch you in the face and say, you know, not your node, not your privacy. And it takes like people getting NFTs on the blockchain to have thousands of clear nodes appear in the ClearNet. So I think he's orange pilling it. And then even him and Rob Hamilton basically created a way to burn Bored Apes. I think it's called a teleburn, where you literally send your Bitcoin cryptographically, or your Bored Ape, to a burn ETH address where it gets burned forever. And then you just basically create the first inscription of whatever that picture is, you know, right click copy, and then put it on the Bitcoin blockchain through an inscription. And Jason Williams is the famous one for doing that. So he literally took like a $500,000 Bored Ape, or $1 million. I don't even know the price of them, but basically a 100,000 Bored Ape, burned it, and then put it on Bitcoin inscriptions. He has the first technically Bored Ape on inscriptions, which is really, really cool. And they can cryptographically verify that his old Bored Ape is not on ETH anymore, and it's fully on Bitcoin. I think many of the ETH people are pissed about that, but you know, all incentives lead to Bitcoin.
Sacrifices to the Bitcoin god. It's our version of the ancient Aztecs here in the Bitcoin community. I wanted to say something.
Go
ahead, CK.
I was just going to say, like, you know, this system, I just, like, I get pissed when Bitcoiners aren't humble. Like, this system is so much more complex than what you can even grok, that you just have to be humble to that. It's just a lot bigger. And I think that it's bad for the Bitcoin community to get too self-righteous about itself and to know too much about how Bitcoin should work or ought to work. And like the basic heuristic here should be like, does this fit within the consensus rules? You know, like people like, oh, well, I went back and I was part of no S2 or no 2x or no SegWit 2x. I blocked the big blockers. That's great. You know, that was a change that was against the consensus rules. So you're on the right side of history. Now we're talking about you're mad about something within the consensus rules. And I like that's the only heuristic that we can settle on that, you know, you can have trust in without, you know, putting in your own bias. So it's just about humility. And that's also why you need to get more bullish, because you need to be humble about how dumb you are in terms of evaluating where Bitcoin's going to go into the future. But that also has to do with changes to Bitcoin, changes to the incentive structure, how we're going to navigate this into the future. Like consensus is, like the physical network consensus is the only objective thing here.
Man, you make me think of a couple things, CK. The first one is, you know, we had Troy Cross on here the other week, and he had a quote on with Peter McCormick recently, something to the effect of, the future of Bitcoin is largely unknown. All we can say about it is it's powerful. And his point was basically that it's such a fundamental building block that estimating where it's headed is nearly impossible. It also reminds me of Jordan Peterson last year at Bitcoin 2022. He said this quote, "Paradigm-shifting tech and discoveries rarely behave the way that we anticipate." Be ready for this protocol to surprise the shit out of you, and be humbled by that. And don't set some agenda for this globally open source decentralized protocol. The incentives will protect the consensus mechanism and the base rules, and whatever you want to do inside of that, have at it. I totally agree. Yeah. The other comment from an economic perspective about ordinals is, I would say, let's just zoom out. Does Bitcoin work as a meaningful global settlement layer? Does it work as a protocol for transferring significant value in the 21st century, or does it not? If your answer is yes, it does, then it's safe to assume long-term that block space is going to be used to its full capacity, is the first thing I would say. The block space is going to be full at some point in the future. And I would also say, if there is one truly robustly decentralized, censorship-resistant, immutable blockchain, that being Bitcoin, my best guess, and maybe it's just because I'm looking at it through a finance econ lens, but my overwhelming hunch is that it is going to be hogged by a monetary language. There may still be room for crazy wealthy people to burn Bored Apes, but I think if it does what we think it's going to do, and it fills the gap that we talk about being so wide and the problems that exist in the world being as significant as they are, I think that it's going to continue to serve a monetary purpose. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. That was really well said. There's two things I want to leave off with here. Number one is that these people that have NFTs, anyone who's intelligent, which I think there are probably few of them in the NFT space, but you never know. Maybe I'm completely being an asshole, but they're going to realize that Bitcoin's the best place for them because it's the one with the most robust network, the one that is the best place to put your NFT if you want it to proliferate into, and for the longest period of time, because I don't think most of these other networks are going to be around for more than maybe a few years to a decade. The other thing is that predicting the future. If you read sci-fi at all, which I'm a pretty big sci-fi fan, you read books from like the 50s, like I'm thinking of a good like Dune or something like The Moon is a Strange Mistress or something like that. Like there's a ton of really good things. There's a lot of things they get right, extrapolating from their current technology to the future, but there's a massive amount they get wrong. I mean, just think of Doc Brown in Back to the Future. That was 1985. They were predicting in like 2020 there's going to be hoverboards and flying cars. If that's your only reference to sci-fi stuff. But the point is that most of this stuff, people just extrapolate the current predicament into the future based on the timeline they kind of see and their own perspective of things which they can't predict. The future is going to be much different than we think it is going to be. There's no way we're going to predict it. And even the best sci-fi authors like Arthur C. Clarke and all those people didn't predict a lot of the things 30, 40 years ago that are happening today because there's divergent things that happen unforeseen to them. And there are definitely those things that are going to be happening unforeseen to us. So temper yourself and stay humble, as we've referenced multiple times during this. So we have no clue what the future holds. We have some idea, but 90% of it is completely in the fog at this point. But I think Bitcoin's going to be there.
Yeah. Great point. Such a great point. Man, we could go for a lot longer. We won't. CK, how many beers did you get through during this time?
I'm almost done with 2. I think the second beer definitely came through at the end. I'm sorry I got a little heated there, but I just hate it when Bitcoiners...
That's what this show's for, dude.
When Bitcoiners disrespect their principles. Like, I'm just so principled on... I love permissionlessness, and I love Bitcoin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. And I really like the distinction that you drew between, is it within the parameters or not? Like the fork wars were a different thing. That was going to be a hard fork. Totally different conversation taken out of context. I think that's an unfair comparison. And yeah, I don't know. I'll stress the point I made a second ago. If you're actually concerned that NFTs are going to usurp the monetary use case of Bitcoin, then the monetary use case of Bitcoin isn't as significant as we all thought, is sort of the way that I think it through. Closers, gentlemen, what do you want to say before we call this an evening? Maybe we'll start with you, Alaimo. What do you got?
Yeah, no, just thanks for having me on, guys. Love this show. Love listening to it. I hope we put up a good episode, CK and myself. But yeah,
always.
looking forward to seeing people at Bitcoin 2023. I'll speak for myself, but I know CK is probably twice as busy as I. If you see us at the conference, please come say hello to one of us. We might be running around with our heads cut off, but it's a great event. We love hosting it, and it's truly like a privilege to put on this event. I really mean that. And yeah, hopefully we can grab a beer afterwards. I know I'm going to be exhausted, but the event, the hype of being with Bitcoiners, I try and keep the party going all night long and into the day. So thanks so much for having us. Oh, and if you haven't ordered your tickets already, use BCB23. I know that's your promo code. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, the same goes for us. We'd love to meet anyone who listens to our show, and we're always down for a beer.
CK, What are you most looking forward to for this vacation?
Oh man. So I'll dox my vacation a little bit. I'm going to Argentina. So incredible steaks, going to Patagonia, gonna experience the glaciers, and some other awesome nature. So it's been a long time. I'm a big backpacker. I think nature is a lot of my inspiration for how I view Bitcoin, and it's been a long time since I backpacked. So I'm not going backpacking to Argentina, but gonna go do some hardcore hiking, if you will. So really hyped for that.
That sounds awesome.
A blast. We appreciate both you guys. You'll be on here again. We appreciate the mag, and we're pumped to get down and see you guys in Miami. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.